Welcome everyone. This is the Indian Express of 19 September 2022 and I will explain this newspaper in 3 steps. First is why is the news given? Second is what is the news? And third is what can be the future prospects of the news. So we will start with the first news. Quotas. Government to set up panel to study status of scheduled caste converts to Christianity and Islam. So why exactly this news has come? Because there are news that scheduled caste or Dalits have converted to religions other than Hinduism, Sikhism or Buddhism to Christianity and Islam. So now question arises that whether the SC reservation, which is scheduled caste reservation, benefits for Dalit, this can be possible for those that have converted to Christianity and Islam or not. So comes in the wake of petition in Supreme Court seeking SC reservation for these categories. Proposals are being discussed at the center. So we will see now what is the news. In a move with far-reaching implications, the center is all set to constitute a national commission to study the social, economic and educational status of members of scheduled caste or Dalit who converted to religions other than Hinduism, Buddhism and Sikhism. The Indian Express has learnt. So this is very clear. In order to study social, economic and educational status of those converts, this committee or commission has been all set to constitute. The proposal to set up such a commission is being actively discussed at the center and a decision will be taken very soon. Sources in the Ministry of Minority Affairs and Department of Personnel and Training said that they have given the green signal for such a move. That means they have allowed such commission to be constituted. It is learnt that consultations on the proposals are currently ongoing among the Ministry of Home, Law and Social Justice and Empowerment and also Finance. So these ministries, Ministry of Law, Ministry of Home, Ministry of Social Justice and Empowerment and then Ministry of Finance, all these ministries are nowadays consulting on such a proposal. The move to set up such a commission assumes significance in the wake of several petitions pending before the Supreme Court seeking SC reservation benefits for Dalits who converted to Christianity or Islam. So because these petitions are now pending before the Supreme Court, I have explained this. So that is why this move to set up such a commission have you can say gotten such a speed or pace. Now there are two orders, acts, the Constitution Scheduled Caste Order 1950 and also there is another Constitution Scheduled Tribes Order 1950, but here only scheduled caste has been given because this is only talk of scheduled caste, not scheduled tribes. So now under Article 341 stipulates that no person professing a religion different from Hinduism, Sikhism or Buddhism can be deemed to be a member of scheduled caste. This is by Article 341. Original order under which only Hindus were classified as SCs was amended 1956 to include Sikhs and then 1990s to cover Buddhists. On August 30, Solicitor General, so this is clear, Article 341 were first only for Hindus and then in 1950s it was also included that Sikhism will be included. In the 1990s it covered Buddhist religion also. So three religions are there on whom this scheduled caste order and Article 341 now carries on. So on August 30, Solicitor General Tushar Mehta informed the Supreme Court bench headed by Justice Sanjay Kishan Kaul and also comprising Justice Abhay S. Oka, Vikram Nath, that he would place on record the government's stand on the issue raised by the petitioners. So what government is trying to say, what is the stand of government? he would place on record. The bench granted the Solicitor General 3 weeks' time and listed the matter on October 11. So October 11 is the date on which the government stand will come on. Solicitor General submits that he would like to place on record the current position yes stand on the issue in question, which deals with the prayer for extension of claim of reservation from Dalit communities to other religion than the ones specified. So those such as Islam and Christianity, those Dalits that have converted to Islam and Christianity, will they get reservation of SC or not? So he would place a record of current position or stand. What is the stand of government on the issue in question, and what is the question which deals with the prayer for extension of claim of reservation? Extension of this reservation, they want reservation for Dalit communities to other religions than Hinduism, Buddhism and Sikhism. On his request, 3 weeks' time is granted. Now, learned counsels for petitioner appellant state that they will file a response, if any, within a week thereafter. India Express have learnt that the proposed commissions may have 3 or 4 members, with its chairman holding the rank of union minister. This will be a structure, 3-4 members, and a chairman which will hold the rank of union cabinet minister. Also, possible time frame of well over a year to submit its report. So after 1 year, this analysis will be done and then report will be submitted. Apart from mapping the changes in the status and situation of Dalit who have converted to Christianity or Islam, the proposed commission will also study the impact of adding more members to the current SC list. Both of these will be studied. First is, what is the status and current situation of Dalits who have converted, and second, what will be the impact if these converts are added to the SC list. Now the issue is limited to Dalits since there is no religion specific mandate for SCs and OBCs. The rights of a person belonging to scheduled tribe are independent of his or her religious faith. This is said by DOPT, Department of Personnel and Training website. Besides following the implementation of the Mandal Commission report, several Christian and Muslim communities have found place in central state list of OBCs. So, scheduled tribes are not divided according to religion. OBCs have certain communities of Christian and Muslims in its list. So it will determine whether Christian and Islam converts of Dalits will be included or not. Among the key benefits available to SC community is 15% reservation. You know that 15% reservation is given for SC community for direct recruitment in central government jobs. Also 7.5% for STs, 27% quota for OBCs. This is the benefit that they are trying to avail for themselves. Question of SC reservation benefits for Dalit who converted mainly to Christianity or Islam have come up before earlier governments too. 2004 UP government that was headed by Dr. Manmohan Singh, he constituted the National Commission for Religious and Linguistic Minorities. This commission was headed by former Chief Justice of India, Justice Rangnath Mishra, to recommend measures for the welfare of socially and economically backward sections among religious and linguistic minorities. What was the work? The commission was formulated, Chief Justice was made the head, and what next? His work was to recommend measures. What can be done for the welfare of socially and economically backward section among religious and linguistic minorities? May 2007, Rangnath Mishra Commission submitted its report and recommended that SC status be completely delinked from religion and be made religion neutral like STs. But the UP government did not accept the recommendations on the ground that it was not substantiated by field studies. Recommendations were done that it should be made a non-religious like STs, but it was not followed, and reason was given that it was not substantiated by field studies. Proper field studies were not done to study that. Separately, a study commissioned by National Commission for Minorities in 2007. So this was another commission. 2007. It also concluded that Dalit Christians and Dalit Muslims need to be accorded SC status, and that finding too was not accepted. And why exactly? On the grounds because it was said that it was based on minuscule sample sizes that could have led to unreliable estimates. What that mean? It means that less people were examined. The sample sizes was very minuscule, or you can say tiny. And because of this tiny sample sizes, the estimates are unreliable. You cannot rely on such a tiny estimates of people. So first was that it was not substantiated by field studies. Second, no reliable estimates. Sources in the Ministry of Minority Affairs said the latest proposal to set up a commission was necessitated by the thinking that while the issue is of prime importance, there is no definitive data available to study its various facets and arrive at a clear position. So again that survey will be done, that data will be corrected because there is no definitive data available to study about its multifaceted interest, various facets, and then arrive at a clear position. There is no such data available, so there is a proposal to set up a commission so that new studies will be done. What can we expect in the future? 1 year after that committee will give its report, that means next year, we will see what recommendations it will make. And if the recommendations are made that this list should be made non-religious, then what exactly this NDA government will do? We have seen the works of UP government, so we can only see this in future. To curb use of chemical fertilizers, government to give nod to PM Pranam. So Union government intends to launch a scheme which is named PM Pranam to reduce the use of chemical fertilizers by incentivizing states. What is the proposed scheme? Proposed scheme is short for PM Pranam, which means promotion of alternate nutrients for agriculture management Yojana. Also aims to bring down the subsidy burden on chemical fertilizers. So also because there's a lot of subsidy that is given by the government to the farmers for using chemical fertilizers, which is estimated to reach 2.25 lakh crore. You see a lot, and in fact higher from last year figure of 1.62 lakh crore. It assumes significance in view of the sharp increase in the overall fertilizer requirement in the country during the last 5 years. So a lot of chemical fertilizers were used in order to produce more food grains for rising population. So it is now more significant. This PM Pranam become more significant at this time. It is learned that the top officials of the Union Ministry of Chemicals and Fertilizers, which has mooted the idea of PM Pranam, share the details of the proposed scheme with the state government officials during the National Conference on Agriculture for Rabi campaign, which was held on September 7th. Ministry has also sought their suggestions on the features of the proposed scheme. It is learned. So nothing is there to explain. These are ministry works that are being done. Sources said that ministry has initiated interministerial discussions. So there will be an interministerial, more ministries will discuss with each other on the proposed scheme and that its draft will be finalized after incorporating the views of the departments concerned. So, whatever departments are in the fertilizing zone, they will be concerned, and then after final draft will be released. A source hinted that the scheme will have no separate budget and it will be financed to the savings of existing fertilizer subsidy. So, 2 lakh crore is given to the farmers for subsidy as for using fertilizers. So, this money will be saved, and this saving will be invested in that PM Pranam under the scheme run by Department of Fertilizers. Now, according to sources, 50% of subsidy saving will be passed as a grant to state that saves the money. So, if any state save that money, then 50% of the subsidy will be given to that state. Sources also said that 70% of the grant provided under the scheme can be used for asset creation related to technological adoption of alternate fertilizers and alternate fertilizer production unit at village, block and district level. So, if such technologies are adopted for alternate fertilizers, then 70% of the grant will be given for asset creation for making such production units at village, block and district levels. Remaining 30% grant money can be used for rewarding and encouraging farmers, also for rewarding and encouraging panchayats, farmer producer organization, self-help groups involved in reduction of fertilizer use and awareness generation. So all this money, 30% will be used for that. Remaining 30%. Given an example of calculation, in reducing chemical fertilizers use, also state increase or reduction in urea in a year will be compared to its average consumption of urea during the last 3 years. So what is the increase or what is the decrease? How much state have tried to reduce the consumption of urea will be compared to its average consumption of urea during the last 3 years. If a state does reduce its consumption, then only such 50% grants will be given. So this comes the first page news. Now we will come to more. This is city news, then also some city news which is also political news. Government and politics have more of political news. Okay, so this news is important. A special tourist train for Ambedkar Circuit. This is by Reddy. And who is this person? He is the Minister of Union, Tourism and Culture Ministry. He said that a special tourist train will be announced. He announced, in fact, to cover the Ambedkar Circuit. He was inaugurating a 3-day conference of state tourism ministries in Dharamshala. He said that as many as 3,000 special railway coaches have been reserved for the promotion of tourist circuits. So you have seen such tourist circuits also, such as Ramayan Circuit and Buddhist Circuit. Then a special train will be run on the Ambedkar Circuit also. In June this year, a special race was run on the Ramayan Circuit, which covered prominent places associated with the life of Lord Ram, that include Ayodhya in India and Janakpur in Nepal. So officials said that this will become a regular feature, especially close to 2024 opening of Ram Temple in Ayodhya. So on the same basis, this Ambedkar's circuit will also be started. Now, speaking to the media on the sidelines of Dharamshala event, Reddy said that Tourism Ministry has drawn up an action plan for various circuits under its Swadesh Darshan scheme. So it was proposed in 2016 that this Ambedkar circuit will be made. So now this have been announced, and it covers Madhya Pradesh, Mahau, Ambedkar's birthplace, Nagpur, where he converted to Buddhism, the residence in Delhi, where he lived during his last year, and Dadar in Maharashtra, where his body was cremated. So you see that Mahau, Delhi, Nagpur, and Dadar. Four of these are covered under this circuit. Now, 3-day Tourism Ministry's conclave will discuss issues related to tourism sector. So, what are these issues? Including attracting also issues, and then how can we attract more foreign tourists coming to India? Also, how to increase domestic tourism, comprehensive development of tourist destination, and also promotion of indigenous activities in domestic sector. All these will be discussed. Also, a special focus on ecotourism, green tourism, medical tourism, and wildlife tourism. Reddy said that government is focused on responsible and sustainable tourism, and the national tourism policy, which will form the blueprint for these areas, will be out before the next budget session. So this policy and also the blueprint will be out before next budget session. Green tourism and digital tourism will be government's key focus areas over the next decade as per the new policy. So this digital tourism is a new thing. You see, virtual tourism was also a thing that came in news. Policy documents also identified factors that hampered the growth of tourism sector in the country, which include perceptions related to safety and security. So you see, growth, safety, security, and also there will be a discussion on engagement between center and states. So this is a easy news. You can understand everything by just reading. Steps will be taken to address these issues, officials from Tourism Ministry said. At the conclave, there were also deliberations on how tourism sector has taken a hit due to COVID-19 pandemic, and why exactly? Because of ban on foreigners coming to India, and also lockdowns were there, and the step that needs to taken to get back to pre-pandemic level. Reddy said that in terms of domestic tourism, the Himalayan states were doing well after the pandemic. So people are going to Shimla, Manali, all that areas. And also to attract foreign tourists, government has last year announced 5 lakh free e-visas on first come first served basis. However, Reddy told the Indian Express that this limit has not yet been exhausted, since foreign tourist arrivals were hit in the wake of Omicron wave earlier this year. And because this wave has come, Omicron, so that is why this was not completely fulfilled, this first come first serve e-visa facility. Now this e-visa facility has now been extended to the nationals of 160 countries. So this was all. New Ambedkar circuit will be made, and we can expect in future, as we have already seen that Minister has said that more of such circuits can be developed in the future. So now comes the word page. We see our headline: Nepal Chief Justice was placed under house arrest day after he survived impeachment move. So I think only headline is enough. Now today there is not much news related to India and international. So next come the explain page. So we see our first headline is the benefits of stockpiling. Accumulating large reserves of forex food has helped in these difficult times. Stockpiling has a cost, but that's like spending on defense or a standing army. Utility is proven only in time of economic crisis or war. What he's trying to say is that stockpiling does pays a cost. It means that the income of the country reduces, the income of farmer reduces, as they do not sell it to external countries, but It is like spending on defense, and only this stockpiling can be proven as a helpful thing when the time of economic crisis or war comes. Now I was talking about 2013. Between May 1st and August 28th, rupee plunged from 53 to 68 to the US dollar. You see, $1 became 68 rupee, a 22% depreciation in 4 months. During this period, country's foreign exchange reserve fell from 294.31 billion to 275.49 billion. Even as the RBI hiked its benchmark lending rate by 300 basis points. You see, 300. We have seen this RBI hiking its lending rate this year also, but it was 40, 50, and again 50 basis point. But in 2013 it was 300 basis point, from 7.25 to 10.25%. Cut to the last 1 year, since October 29, 2021, the rupee has depreciated hardly 6%, from 74 to 79 to the dollar, and the RBI's repo rate has gone up only 140 basis point. We know that once 40, again 50, and then again 50. So calculated 140 basis point, 4% to 5.4%. However, this has come with a larger forex reserve depletion, and what it is, 642 billion to 550 billion dollar as on September 9 this year. What happened then? What happened then in 2013? 2013 was a crisis year, and this year 2022 is also a crisis year, but the current crisis is worse than the situation that was 9 years ago. 2013, United States Federal Reserve kept its fund rate unchanged at 0.25%. Then European Central Bank even slashed its main refinancing rate from 0.75 to 0.25. Consumer price inflation 2013 averaged 1.47 in US, 1.35 in Europe. So all of these things were less. Now they are more. 2013 crisis was largely triggered by US Fed proposing a phased reduction in its purchases of bond and other assets amounting to 85 billion a month. So this is about how international economy affects Indian economy. It is a quite popular saying that even in globalization era, inflation is also exported. So talking about 2013, we are more interested in what is happening now. In 2013, the big central banks were only phasing out monetary stimulus, or they were slowing the rate of injecting liquidity into the economies. What is injecting liquidity? Giving more cash to people. Diverting more liquidity in market means giving more cash in the pockets or in the bank accounts of people. Today they are tightening by reducing money supply and raising interest rate. What that means, if you reduce the money supply, if the people do not have money in their pockets and you raise interest rates, people will not spend. This can be a major catastrophe. Since mid-March, the US Fed has increased its fund rate from 0.25% and also 2.5%, from 0.25 to 2.5%, and expected to take this further up to a 3.25% target. Since mid-March, the US Fed has increased its fund rate from nearly 0.25% to 2.5% and expected to take this up to 3.25% target range on this September 2021. ECB, which is European Central Bank, also hiked its key refinancing rate from 0 to 1.25%. Inflation are higher in US and European Union, 8.3% in US, 10.1% in European Union. These are the price increases that people in those economies last saw in the early 1980s. Europe has a 40-year high inflation, US too. The commitment of their central banks to target inflation at 2% would entail real monetary tightening and high interest rate for sustained time, such as it was not in 2013. What these central banks will do, what Europe and this US will do, they will further tighten this monetary policy, and also they will increase their interest rate. That has obvious implications for capital inflows into India. Investment will go down. Rising interest rate in the US and Europe are, if anything, sucking away capital from emerging markets. This isn't helped by India's CAD, which is projected to top 120 billion in 2022-23, surpassing even the levels of 2011 and 2012-13. So you see, it has impact on India, and it is thus worse on both count, external capital flows and also CAT. You see that. Now what is India's war chest? But despite the far more hostile external environment, you see, the global economy is not in a good condition. So it is said it's a hostile external environment. Rupee hasn't been in a free fall, and the RBI has not had to resort to exceptional monetary measures like it did during the taper tantrum period. It has only, this line means that only hiked rate to 140, not like 300. Now it may still raise the rates, but more to control inflation than depreciation. So RBI is hiking a rate to tame the inflation, not to control the depreciation of rupee. In other words, to defend the rupee's internal rather than external value. Primary reason why things have been different is that India entered this crisis with a much bigger war chest than it had in 2013. In 2013, there was not a big forest reserve. The forest reserve of $642 billion on October 29 last year was sufficient ammunition to deter any speculator from taking short positions on the rupee, selling, expecting it to fall against another currency, booking profits by repurchasing later at a lower exchange rate, including through non-deliverable forward contracts. This is some pure economics. You should understand just one thing, that the forex reserves that are enough to sustain the economy were 642 billion last year. Accumulating large forest stockpiles is a strategy many countries have employed. So you see, countries rely on that, especially after lessons learned from 1992 shorting of the pounds by the currency speculator George Soros, and 1997-98 Asian financial crisis, also the 2013 taper tantrum. What this means? This means that every country must have sufficient forest reserves that helps a country to sustain its economy. It is true that India's forest reserve have suffered drawdown of over 91 billion from its peak of less than 11 months ago. But reserves are meant for use in a crisis. These foreign exchange reserves are made so that when crisis comes in a country's economy, then they are used, not just to store them. Like arms and ammunition in a war. Arms and ammunition in a war are not just for the show. When crises occur, when enemy approaches, you have to use that. And it makes a very difference when one starts with nearly $600 billion stockpiles, than with under $300 billion stockpiles. What is the other F? Food. A parallel can be drawn here with food. So the writer is trying to make the readers understand how exactly this thing is related to food. Where stocks of rice and wheat in government godown scale at all-time high of 109.47 million tons on July 1st, 2021. Now, since they have dropped to 60.1 metric ton on September 11, while at a 5-year low on the like period comparison. So you see, from 109.47 million tons to 60.1 million tons. In this case too, Food Corporation of India's grain mountain came useful precisely during a crisis. So this enough storage, this in fact you can call over storage, came useful in crisis. Public distribution system not only delivered but turned out to be the only effective social security net in the wake of COVID induced economic disruptions. And why exactly? Because there was a scheme of giving 5 kg extra ration to the people in the time of COVID. And this stock of food grains, wheat and rice helped to sustain this public distribution system, otherwise it may have come to a stoppage. You can say it acted as an effective social net in the wake of COVID induced economic disruption. The value of that surplus gain is also being realized now. Then at that time they were seen as an extra burden on the food granary or storage, but now their value was realized. When stocks are at barely comfortable level, one more bad harvest could well do to a cereal price what the taper tantrum did to the rupee. If you have more stocks in your storage, then at the time of crisis, these stock help. Same goes for the rupee too. Now it's trying to make analogy between rupee and the food. If you have much more forex reserve, that helps country to sustain the economic crisis. That said, there are costs involved in accumulating reserves of both food and foreign exchange. In food, it is essentially the cost of holding and maintaining stocks above the operational requirement for PDS. In food, we see food requires maintenance and also the cost of storing it in the storage areas. This buffer carrying cost was estimated 5.6 per kg. So for the storage and maintenance of this food grain, 5.6 per kg was spent. Given that the FCI's average stock during the year were about 60 million tons more than necessary, it would have translated into roughly 33,600 crore. You see, 5.6 per kg was used to store and maintain that food grain. Then country have 60 million ton. What exactly that translates into spending? 33,600 crore. It's more complicated in forex reserve, where the RBI purchase of excess dollar leads to a corresponding issuance of domestic currency. This need to mop up, which is sterilize this rupee liquidity in order to prevent inflation, then results in its selling government bonds. If the interest payable on these exceeds what the RBI earn from deploying its forex assets in overseas security in bank, this fiscal cost to reserve built up. What this means? This means that if you purchase excess dollar, then that can have effect on domestic currency. There needs to mop up this rupee liquidity. It means that you have to take back money from the people's pocket. So what do? You sell securities, you sell government bonds, and when you sell them, the money, who are the buyer? People, citizens are the buyer. Citizens buy with their money. They give the money to the government and take the bonds. So money comes in the hand of government. This sterilize, mop up this liquidity. If the interest payable on these exceeds what the RBI ends, and when the bonds are with the people, RBI has to pay the interest. There is a fiscal cost to reserve build-up. That is the same as you see in the food grain case. So when food grains are maintained with the help of 5.6 kg, 5.6 rupees per kg, these liquidity is maintained by giving similar interest to the people, which is some rupee. But the cost of holding forests and food reserve is similar to spending on defense and having a standing army. The utility is proved only in economic crisis or when war breaks out. Whether and how much government would bear these costs is both a fiscal and strategic calculation. Now, what is the unresolved F? Fuel. India's economic growth has traditionally been hobbled by the three F's: forex, food, and fuel. First two were the bugbears in 1960, and third, which is fuel, in 1970s. First and third in the run-up to the 1991 payment crisis. Stockpiling has helped mitigate problems for the first two, but there is no solution yet to the vulnerabilities from oil, gas, and coal, because that comes from West Asia, Saudi Arabia, Iran. Unmanageable and also unpredictable. So you see, that is in the explained page, and then comes the essential medicines list. I have explained this in the text and context page of the Hindu. So there I have explained very well. I don't think there's nothing new added to this. If you haven't seen this, then you can check out text and context page. There also similar things are given. Next comes the economy page. First is higher advance payout raises direct tax mop up by 30% to 8.36 lakh crore. This is about September and about GST. So gross direct tax collection, not GST, this is direct tax collection, stood up at 8.36 lakh crore, which is an increase of 30% year on year, supported by high advance tax mop up. So what were the data? Finance Ministry said that rise in tax collection can be seen as an indication of revival of economic activity post pandemic. So it said that can be seen as a growth of economy, or you can call revival. After adjusting for refunds amounting to 1.35 lakh crore, net direct tax kitty grew 23% to 7 lakh crore. Gross collection of direct taxes. So this is only about data that this much tax is collected. We can see it 2022-2023 stand for 836,225 crore, which is 8,36,225 crore compared to 6,42,287 crore in the year ago, which is 30% growth. What this tax include? This tax include revenue from corporate income tax, which is 4.36 lakh crore, and again personal income tax, which is 3.98 lakh crore, corporate of 4.36. Direct tax collections continue to grow at a robust pace, clear indicator of the revival of economic activity, which is after post pandemic. Also the result of stable policies of government. So all these factors are important. First is stable policies of government. Government focused on simplification and streamlining of processes, and also plugging of tax leakage through effective use of technology. So these were the major cases of tax evasion. People do not pay taxes for the commodities they use, or in fact the services that are provided by government. And this was plugged out. The tax leakage was notified, and against it was made foolproof by use of effective technology. For April to September, advance tax collection grew at 17%. This includes advance tax payout by corporate taxpayer of 2.29 lakh crore. Also, if you adjust for refunds, net direct tax collection rose to 23%. So this all of that crore is not that important. You just have to remember that what are the reasons for such a tax collection, which are these. You cannot just learn simple all of this data. There has been a remarkable increase in the speed of processing of income tax returns filed during current fiscal, with almost 93% of the duly verified income tax reserve have been processed till this date. This has resulted in faster issue of refund, with almost 468% increase in the number of refunds issued in the current financial year. This means that more people participated in speeding up the process of income tax returns. So almost 468%, you see 468% increase in the number of refunds. So all these policies overall helped in the tax collection. Now next come WTO dispute settlement reforms. WTO, World Trade Organization, USTR calls for meet. USTR, US Trade Representative. In Bali, 21st September, Goel to attend. What exactly is the topic of this meeting? US Trade Representative have convened a meeting of trade ministers of G20 country. India is a part of G20, and this meeting will occur in Bali to discuss World Trade Organization's dispute settlement reforms. This is the topic. Meeting will be attended by Commerce and Industry Minister Piyush Goyal. He will be in Bali for the G20's Trade Investment Industry Ministerial Meeting on September 21st. US Trade Representative is Catherine Tai. She called the meeting to discuss their issues with regard to WTO's dispute settlement mechanism at the sidelines of the ministerial meeting. So this G20's Trade Investment Industry Ministerial Meeting will occur, and then on the sidelines, this USTR meeting will occur. Geneva-based 164-member multilateral body deals. This is about WTO. It has 164 members. It's a multilateral body. It deals with global exports and import related norms, and also it adjudicates trade disputes between member countries. If some trade dispute occur between two members, then it is the organization that solves these trade disputes. Now, global trade expert termed the dispute settlement mechanism of the WTO as a ground, because you see, it's the main work of WTO. There are two main ways to settle a dispute once a complaint has been filed in the WTO. There are two ways. First is countries find mutually agreed solution. So two countries can find a bilateral solution, particularly during the phase of bilateral consultation, and through adjudication, which includes ruling by a panel. If not satisfied, challenging that ruling at the appellate body. First is you find solution yourself by meeting at a bilateral meeting. And second is if you are not satisfied, or if one party is not satisfied, then appeal to the panel, it will give solution. The appellate body is an apex institution to adjudicate disputes. If one party or both the parties are not satisfied, then appeal to the panel. It is the highest. Apex institution means the top institution to solve such disputes. Now this was the news, and you see India will take part in both these meetings, which is conducted by first WTO, G20, first is by G20, by USTR and other countries. So this comes an end to the newspaper. Now you can read this newspaper by yourself as well.